Unreal Engine, I think most people know it from games like Fortnite, but I quickly noticed that this is a tool that can bring a certain level of quality to create virtual production and visual effects. I was always fascinated by how a game could run real time, while we were always waiting for renders to finish, and that's a game changer.
Working on virtual events seemed like a logical step to us.
I was approached by OCESA, which is like the largest Latin promoter in the world. Their main thing was we want to be the first Latin festival who does this, and we have to make this statement.
2020 was the trigger to actually speed that kind of production.
Prismax is actually a content creation company for shows and concerts and artists. We make the background visuals during a show, during a concert, a fashion show.
Besides that, we also create little tools that make life easier in the front of house. That's where all the actual operators are coming together, usually in the front of the stage. And just to make life easier, like linking protocols together, it's that knowledge that helped us boost our production workflow and what was later to come.
Before COVID, our core business was capturing events, live stream them, broadcast them.
I used to travel too much, going to rehearsals, startups of new tours, seeing a lot of people, a lot of artists. Very exciting life.
200 flights a year wasn't an exception. It was a very turbulent lifestyle, and then suddenly it just came to a complete halt.
I had something like all our jobs, my jobs and my colleagues, their jobs were gone. My agenda was completely empty in a few days.
First weeks felt like a genuine holiday, and we thought like, it's gonna pass. It's gonna be a few weeks and then it's gonna be all right, but it wasn't. Not at all.
But then when all the summer jobs got canceled and even postponed until next year, we quickly noticed like, okay, we really need to evolve into another type of work.
A couple of days after, we were like, okay, what can we do, or what are we gonna do? Because we're not gonna wait till this is ending, not at all.
We had a lot of late night chats, like what are we gonna do? And then we were like, we gotta find something that we can do in this world. And then, we both like to play a computer game from time to time. It's in a virtual world, so why not take whatever expertise we have into the virtual world? That was our main goal.
So we could create a new medium, and Unreal Engine, was the tool that we thought suited best for us. Yeah.
I was talking to the guys of Tomorrowland, like saying, hey guys, it's now March. Is your event gonna happen? Are you gonna have a show, yes or no? It wasn't quite clear yet how bad this pandemic was gonna be. So I said like, if it's not happening, maybe let's do your festival in Unreal Engine. They said like, could you make a demo what it looks like? And we created a demo, I think in 6 days, and that's what sold the virtual festival.
There was a very big gap between the first demo and the actual final product. There were so many requests down the line, and we were very motivated and very confident that we would make sure that all those requests were handled. Of course, we were hitting some limitations. We were doing things that were never done before. But the people at Epic were really kind enough to supply some support when it comes to this. I remember a call where even they said, okay, this might be a little bit ambitious, but let's see how far we can push this.
Well, for us it was very important that we create a virtual festival, but not only a virtual festival that is there for the audience, but also for the people in the event industry. Like you have all these light guys, fireworks people, show director. They're all out of a job because of Corona, and they all have their own tools, their own software and hardware that they normally use to operate a show. So we actually created a bridge between Unreal Engine and their tools. They could use their tools that they always use at the festival. We take and record all that data. We input it in Unreal Engine. The end result of their actions in their normal tools are being output into our virtual festival.
My role was being the stage and lighting designer, and as a project manager I contacted Prismax, who are pioneers in the whole creating virtual environments for the music industry.
Tecate Pal Norte is the first virtual festival with live bands. We did a few virtual festivals before, but only with live DJs, so this is a bit different.
It's a Mexican festival, which is a yearly festival being held in Monterrey, in a beautiful nature resort. And the cool thing is that we recorded all these artists in the same nature park that the normal festival would be held. There's a huge arena there, and we built a custom Green Key studio to make sure that all the artists were comfortable and that it felt familiar. For 12 days in a row, we recorded all the artists, and later all that content was being handled here in Belgium, back in our offices.
So what does it look like for us to create a virtual festival? First, we think about how do we want this world to look like. We go talk to the client, we say, like, hey, what kind of world are you looking at? And they told us, like, yeah, we really like the movie Avatar, we really like that atmosphere. So after these ideas are formed, we start building these in Unreal. And actually, before we even go into the studio, we try to really finish these stages for like 70%.
For real events, we design in visualization software. It doesn't even come close to Unreal, but it gives you an idea, virtual idea of how things will look like. But you always have to think ahead and say, like, because in real life it will look like this, or what we are trying to design something virtually for a real show. For me, it was a bit new in this way that I had to let go of all the reality. So we had to create also fixtures without they would look like real fixtures. They should look like a science fiction fixture, should look like something totally doesn't exist. Drones with lights flying around, impossible in real life. So and that would match the world better than putting like real stuff in there. And that took some time. This way of working has opened the door to a world of limitless possibilities in creativity, where before we were always limited to the real life limitations of technology.
So when I start to look at screenshots of the stages, and then we make together with Ruben of Prismax a lot of virtual shots, 32 per stage, so about 100 for the festival. Then during the recording I do a live edit as well with the virtual cams and also with the live cams. And I have to see that the atmosphere and the timing of every movement is the same.
When you're shooting outdoors on a festival, you need to have reliable cameras that just continue working in whatever weather we have. Working on a virtual festival is totally different because you're indoors in a studio and you're working on a green screen environment. So you need to have cameras that are really good in providing that wide color gamut and to be able to key it out. Yeah. To make this virtual environment really appealing to the audience, we used manned cameras, and the difficulty with manned cameras is that they need to be tracked. So we used optical tracking on those cameras. What we've seen is that one, the color gamut is really important, so we can key it, and two is that every camera is in sync, because the tracking of the cameras needs to be spot on with the frames exactly. So one of the cameras that did this the best was the Sony Venice. We could lock it, we could remotely control it. There's the Rialto extension system that we can use to mount the lens on top and the body and the recorder somewhere else.
So what the big difference between our previous jobs and this virtual festival is that we were using a lot of dynamic light in the Green Key studio, which is, as far as I know, a big no-no in VFX. So we were using colored light on the artist to have a dramatic look and still being able to key out the background from them. But the fact that we would use a LED circle of about 8 meters diameter and use that to light the artist on it really adds to the integration of the virtual world and the real physical footage.
One of the things we did to make it more like a real event, we did some extra audio recordings. The people who really react on something that happened on stage, or they did a sing-along, or they scream, or they clap their hands, things like that. For us, it was the extra layer to make it more real.
All these elements come together into one big timeline. We insert the footage, the keyed footage, into the scene. We insert the cutting that the director made also directly into Unreal Engine, and then we render out the final movie. It's quite a bit of handling, but yeah, once everything comes together, you really have a frame sync show the way we intended to make the show.
How do you build a virtual festival in Unreal Engine? First of all, you start thinking about the concept. For Tecate Pal Norte, they really like the idea of having a floating island with lots of abstract elements. There's a massive crowd here standing. I think it's about 130,000 actors. So we create a lot of custom 3D assets. They have really high detailed modeling and shaders on it. So we custom modeled the islands that the stages would take place on. Besides that, we also use a lot of assets from the marketplace. The marketplace is amazing to find custom assets, just to give like global ideas or mood boards to quickly prototype something. It's of course important that the client knows what he's getting. So when it comes to Unreal, I'm really happy that you can quickly prototype in a matter of days. You can quickly prototype and a general idea, and it's the quality, the immediate quality that you get from it is just a major plus for us and just helps sell the product even better. There's no other tool that does it as well as Unreal, so I'm really happy that we can do the pre-production and post-production in Unreal and just make sure that everything is collected in one program and one engine that does it all. Show lights and DMX control is a key part in making the show come alive. So we spend a lot of time developing our own little workflow within Unreal Engine to make sure that the lighting operators can program their show the way they want it to within a real-time environment, make sure the show looks as best as possible, and what you see is what you get.
In the summer, we used version 4.25, which was like the beta for the old fixture library and fixture protocol. But now 4.26, there's a lot of improvement. They did the ray march beams, which looks a lot better than the old beams, and they also did some under the hood improvements, which only benefited the render times.
So over the past festivals, by now we've done 3 virtual festivals. We've been developing our own custom fireworks system, because that's like what people like. For Tecate Pal Norte, we put the main stage full of fireworks and everything is put into a sequencer on the music, and then everything explodes. Because normally for a real show, pyro is always, there's a certain budget and money-wise, and now we don't have a budget. We can fire as much fireworks as we want. For our virtual festivals, we also created our own festival crowd. What we did is actually we took a few scanned people, scanned persons, and we added motion capture data to them. And we created a sequencer where we can actually change the way they are dancing. Like on rock music or Latin music, they will dance in a completely different way than on EDM music. And when the music gets like more energetic, they should dance, of course, harder than when there's a slower part of the song.
So we're very excited to see what else they can bring for the future, which with the improvements. Also because Unreal has a lot of custom things you can do about it with the custom functions and custom nodes. It's really easy to make it your own and make it the way you want it to be.
If you see the progress that we've made a year since last summer, it's crazy how far we've come and how many leaps we've taken in quality and workflows. We're literally making 30 hours of content in a few months, which would be impossible without something like Unreal Engine, I think.
Bands or festivals can create their own world in virtual environments according to the music, their style of music or style of festival. So the sky's the limit, and we can help them with our experience to make this happen.
Epic and Prismax have built a bridge between music and event industry and the gaming industry. It's not gonna go away, this is gonna stay. I think for the future there is a place for both virtual and the real life events, because artists can use the virtual as a promotional tool. They can do an event and go global in a very short time. While if you have to launch a tour, it's a very lengthy process and a very expensive process.
I think for the future, I'm really looking forward of using Unreal Engine in live shows. Right now we can't do them, so we are limited to virtual shows. I think that's the next step for our event industry.
I'm happy to explore a lot more of productions in Unreal Engine. I think it's here to stay.